Good evening. Good evening. Hopefully everybody is doing okay. I have a very special show tonight. I've got two of the big rollers in town here. We had a good show last week with Pure Hustle Podcast as well. For those of you in my Patreon page, I do have another video I just posted up. It comes back to a conversation we had on the live show on Sunday. So some good information in there. It's going to show you a whole philosophy that you probably never have seen before. It's something that I do all the time. So I honestly hope everybody checks that one out who's in Patreon. We're going to hand the mic over here in just a second and let our two special guests, the $1 Million Peddlers, on here. We've got Mr. Magazine and Papergoy, and we're going to let them introduce themselves right now, and let's hop them on here. Why don't you guys say hello and tell everybody who you are and what you do?
How's it going? I'm Mr. Magazine, Chuck Leone. Been selling online, eBay and Amazon for over 20 years now. Built up a pretty big business, I think, at this point. And hopefully I can learn from you guys and you can learn from me. And here's my buddy, Papergoy.
Hi, Papergoy, Dave, out of Rochester, New York, upstate New York. And kind of got the day job, and then I also sell on the side. So that's one thing to get a little self-promotion of our channel here is we've got it where we've got the big guy and we've got the guy who's got a day job. And so we got two different ways of approaching everything, and we've got different philosophies, and we banter about it all the time on the show.
Yeah, that's one thing I noticed too. If you've watched their channel, again, I've got links down in the description box. I'm just now going to drop one into the our chat box here. Just 1 second here, and you will see it down below. Check them out. You can have, it's kind of like a narrated show some days where Papergoy, is it okay to call you by your names, or what would you guys want me to? I didn't even think to ask that.
Whatever you'd like.
I'm a name person. I don't even announce Don the Auction Professor these days, but we've got Dave on the right is Papergoy, and we've got, it's okay to say your name there, Mr. Magazine?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, and Chuck here on the left. So that's who we're going to be talking to, and if I can get two things done at once, hang on, let me just pop in their link. Yeah, I should be a little more organized, but my day this oh darn it. Hang on 1 second here while I distract from the show. 1 more second. I just copied the wrong thing, and we should have it here. And there we go. Sorry, guys. Okay, we're going to be asking some questions here. They both have been around for quite some time. They both have quantity up. We were just literally talking about quantity and volume before we actually hit the live button here. Chuck has hundreds of thousands of listings, which is my dream at this point to be at that level. Dave's got tens of thousands of listings on his own as well. And they are similar in structure as I am. They don't put all their eggs in one basket. They both do Amazon and eBay to a great extent. They've got way more, both of them actually, on Amazon than I do. eBay, it's a mix here. Can you discuss why or how you actually got into being Mr. Magazine? And then we'll let, once from there, Dave segue into how he became Papergoy.
Yes, so I don't know how many years ago. It was probably 10, 12 years ago. I dealt in kind of everything for a while, the first 10 years on eBay. And then I think I stumbled across off the website a customer in Canada that had 100,000 magazines. And he had cancer, and he was going to pass away, and he wanted to leave his wife money instead of the magazines. So Dave and his buddy went up there to look at it, and he came back, and they told me, hey, if I don't buy it, they're buying it. So right then and there, I knew I better buy this stuff because they know what they're talking about. So I ended up buying 100,000 magazines, and I think a year later or so, we noticed, without even trying, I think we were the top 5 largest magazine sellers on eBay. So that's when I changed my name from C. Leone Jr. to Mr. Magazine. And here we are now.
Very, very interesting. Well, I'm going to piggyback back on that a minute here. Let's let Dave hop on there and answer that same tough question.
Same way when I started out, I come from the world of comic books and sports cards. My father has a store back in Cleveland with comic books, and the funny thing is, I don't sell sports cards, and I sell very, very few comic books because they all end up in my collection. But those are the worlds that I know. So then when I started looking into doing eBay, I started going to the auctions, and I saw that a lot of people weren't buying books. You could buy books fairly cheaply at auctions. So I just would buy books. And over time, of course, as you begin to buy more and more of the same thing, you pick out $100 book out of a box that you had no idea was there. You paid $2 for it. And you're like, wow, one book's worth $100 and I got 15 books for the $2. And you just kind of go more and more into what you know until all of a sudden, 99% of my listings are probably paper based listings.
Yeah, I've kind of started that way too. Most people I know, most people I've talked to, they started out just listing a bunch of stuff on eBay, never expecting to end up, where they're at now. And it sounds the same way as all of us here. I never expected to have, more than a few hundred listings on it. Just went from one step to another step, and and then you find out, well, I can sell on Amazon. Why don't I try that? And then that goes on. I mean, we've got 50 some odd 100 listings, but nowhere near that on Amazon. We're hopefully going to pop those out here once we get the Ink Frog hooked back up and Shopify and the whole works. And I know I've asked that question with you guys before, Dave specifically on an email about that. I've talked to Dave for quite some time, like a year, I think maybe, or better. First time actually talking to Chuck. Real good guys here. I would, obviously say that if they weren't, they wouldn't be on the show. So, with getting into that, would that be your same standpoint? Were the big bulk purchase that you got with the magazines, Chuck, was that your foray into bulk selling, or were you playing with bulk or at least some form of selling prior to that?
Yeah, well, we've had a brick and mortar store since I was born. My dad had it, so I was always collecting Star Wars toys when in the 80s and anything you can think of, sports cards, Mickey Mantle, Yankee cards. And then once that magazine deal came across, it kind of, grew me into the next level, I guess. We just kind of exploded after that. And I started pressing magazines off the website. We got lots of calls all over the country. And before you know it, we're buying out, this store in Georgia, we're buying here and there. And we're growing from 10,000 to 100,000 listings now to 500,000.
That's incredible. That really is. Those numbers are what I see as the thing. We've shot for volume, but then we kind of split off instead of cross listing, and that's where our falter was, which we're hopefully going to work out, as I said, with Shopify. Now you have your own site separately of it, or is it tied together through a Shopify? I think you said you do use Shopify.
Yeah, we have Shopify, and we use Celebrate to integrate everything into Shopify.
Yeah, I tried Celebrate. Getting the individual, all the oddball cards and stuff I have up was almost impossible to get them to match and all that stuff for us.
It's not a perfect system. We've had a lot of glitches, but we're kind of stuck into it now, so we just do the best.
You got all your inventory listed through there, and you can't just pull it off.
Exactly.
And with Dave here on your side of this, I've delved in books. We used to be book scanners. Did you ever do the scanning too? Go to the stores and scan? You ever try that?
No, and actually, it's funny you say that. I do see a lot of people doing the scanning, and this is a little tip to anybody out there that does books. When you go to a book sale and you see the scanners, and I know you've talked about it before, you go for the paperbacks. The other things, you go for the books without the ISBNs, or they can have ISBNs, but if they're not scannable, the book scanner is not even going to worry about it. And another little tip, I did pick up at a sale that had a scanner, and I actually was able to sell it not too long ago, Da Vinci Code first print, because the book scanners see the Da Vinci Code and they say, oh, it's a piece of junk, it's a $2 book, and they don't even bother scanning it, whereas I can pick it up and look and say, hey, that's a first print. So those are a couple of little tips there. When you do see a scanner, don't waste your time following them because they've already scanned all the books, but grab the books that you might be able to find a first in.
Yeah, with scanning too, I used to do scanning a lot, and we'd go to ones and they'd have it where you couldn't use your phone. They'd black out service. And my phone, there's an app out there. I'm not going to call it names because I don't use it anymore, but it had the whole database on my phone. So I beat everybody else out because no one knew about it back then. So I could just use the app, it downloads everything, so I can still scan. And it had the little wireless earpiece, and it would just beep if I had to buy it. So it was beep, yep. No beep, no, and it was just that piece of cake. And so I had it in my pocket. You couldn't even tell I was using it, other than doop, worked out really well. But book wise, I used to do a ton of that. I not just scan, but I did paperbacks and all that kind of stuff too. Around here, the market has it's gone pretty much from a good market to dead. And then when Amazon raised the storage fees, I don't know, a couple of years back, we ended up just saying it just wasn't worth it because of the escalation. It used to be like bread and butter. You could sell, hundreds of $5, $10 books a week, I mean, quantity enough to make it worth the while. And you're paying quarter, a nickel in big bulk at these sales where you're buying a whole half a pallet in a big dumpster, the big cardboard pallet boxes and stuff. I've done that, but these days it's just not practical, at least in my book. With Dave, with expanding, what's your goals, I guess, would be looking at it? I mean, I know you guys, every time I see a video of yours, you guys obviously do pretty much all this stuff together, at least have some unified goal for expansion. Is your goal too looking for increasing the volume as a long play game? Is that what your goal would be too?
My goal, actually, I've got a day job with the state, and I've got 3 years till I retire. And so I'm kind of in a holding pattern for the next 3 years. So I'm kind of treating the next 3 years almost like college, where I'm going to continue to learn as much as I possibly can. Then my goal after 3 years, and I think it's certainly able to be done, is to try to get $1 million worth of inventory on, which I've sat there and I've run the numbers. And if I do 10 items a day, which I'll be retired, so I'll certainly have time to do that. That kind of thing. I'm thinking if I can get $1,000 a week worth of inventory listed, it's not going to take me any time at all, 3 years, and I'll have more than $1 million listed just off of that.
Yeah, we started with some buttons in I think December, mid-December, something like that. We hit the 100,000 mark in 6 weeks. So again, it depends on what you're selling, of course, but volume wise, obviously is your play too. I shouldn't ask. I won't ask you that one question.
You can ask anything you'd like. We're open books. We really are.
My question is value wise then I'll tell you right now, I've got $1 million, right about $1 million or close to $1 million on one eBay account. I think it's 900,000 in listed value. And the other one has probably a hair more, at the $1.1 million mark, I think. And of course, we're talking about list price, not sell price, not my value price. Right. On what would you say, Chuck? Again, I'm not trying to delve. And again, all you got to do is say that's nobody's business. That's fine. I don't release certain information. What would be the dollar value? Just, I don't want to ask Amazon, on your eBay store.
We evaluated my company recently because we had some gentleman interested in buying it just for the heck of it. And I wasn't thinking about selling it, but if the price is right, I certainly would, entertain the offer. So Dave and I were kind of just crunching some numbers for what we have as far as listed inventory, unlisted inventory. And I think we're at the 10 million mark on listed inventory. So if we have 500,000 items, our average ticket is 18 on Amazon and 25 on eBay. That puts us about 10 million just for listed stuff. And we probably got another 10 million ready to go. Yeah,
I've got probably 5 times what I have listed and sitting here and stocked and back. I was trying to find something earlier today. It was the cards, actually. I got some more of those cards, the Marvel cards. Oh, nice. I started pulling out boxes, and I realized I have no room to put any boxes to pull out what I want to get now. So now I have to take it over to our storage building, which I didn't want to have to do. But now I'm stuck. I know with storage with Chuck here, man, you've got some shelving there. Yeah. I've used the Metro Max, and the shelves I got cost us $55 per panel, bought 2 at a time. So it's 16 feet of shelving, 4 feet deep and 8 foot tall. I know you've spent you blow my shelving away. I got like 40 of those shelves, mind you, and I thought that was a lot, but
Yeah.
oh my gosh, if you haven't seen these two's video on their warehouse, oh my gosh, that really changed it. We actually sat down the next day and tried to get a plan together on upping our volume just because of your guys' video, and Dom called us onto that too. Primetime Treasure Hunter. I don't know if he's in the house or not, but I know he's been pretty busy with everything going on. But that is some incredible numbers there that you got. Like Dave talking about getting up to like the million mark. I started off, with zero, and it's kind of, when you look at, we've got, I don't probably have it close to half. I probably got 8 or 9 million in total list and backstock and all that. We were talking, because we did do an estimate for insurance purposes. I do that every time, first of the year. So I got to turn over a number. Where are we at? And that was our number. It's amazing that, you start off somewhere. I never expected this. I've got a degree. I expected to be working for somebody, and all the people that I went, into the program and the training for some of the jobs and stuff, they're all stuck now. They're all, I'll put this out there, screwed because of the pandemic. I don't want to light code it or anything else like that. 1 second here. I see Mike. Mike, thanks very kindly for the super chat there. I know you guys know Mike. Again, Mike's a really good guy. I've talked to Mike. In fact, Mike is the very first person I ever talked to from YouTube. And he's one of the grandfathered people in our private page too as well. Mike's a radio guy. He does a lot of vacuum tubes. I've talked to Mike quite a few times. Thank you very kindly, Mike. Again, you don't have to ever do something like that. Mike's been a Patreon as well too. Good guy, Mike. Thank you very kindly. Let's pop back here for just a second, back to that.
You don't want to hear how much my inventory is? You did ask.
Yeah, I was just coming back. I forget about the super chats because in fact, the only reason I saw it because it showed up on my other screen. I never see them over here. We were going to pop back over there in just a second there. Since we're back on you now, why don't you shoot that out there right now?
It won't take long. Don't worry.
No. I think it's $1.03.
Hey.
That's it's about $350 on eBay and about $250 on Amazon, something like that. So we're at about 600,000 listed. Now, when I'm talking about having 1 million listed, I'm talking about just eBay, because the way that I do Amazon is Amazon's more or less, if I don't think it's worth listing on eBay, I throw it over on Amazon because it's so fast to list stuff. So I've got comic books on there, $6 comic books. I'm not going to list the $6 comic book on eBay, but I can get it listed in 15 seconds on Amazon. So it's like, yeah, let me get that listed. Let me get that listed. So that's kind of what I kind of use it as a way to get rid of things that aren't worth my time on eBay.
One thing with like totals and stuff like that with volume, Dave, I don't know about you, but when we started, I thought $20,000 on eBay. Oh my gosh, how can I ever get that number there? I don't want anybody watching this to think that, hey, I'm never going to get that number. I, in my wildest dreams, never in my world would I've ever thought this is what I'm doing. But, this has like been the perfect thing. I worked full time and did this. I've done eBay for like 25 years. I worked full time. I worked 60 plus hours and I did eBay on my only couple days off a month. So this has been like in my blood, but I would have never expected in, volume wise, the amount of inventory I have up, it's just not what I would have ever expected. It kind of creeps up on you that out of nowhere, hey, I've got a ton of merchandise up. It's not, I don't want this to be like, we're not brag. I don't think this is a brag to me. I get people say that. The point of this is that you can start from nowhere and get to anywhere. The playing field is level. With Chuck coming in here, he came in and almost instantly was able to whomp a category. And I know Dave talks about this too. I've watched many of his conversations on the channel. Again, $1 Million Peddlers, talking about, getting, I totally lost my train of thought. Hang on 1 second here. Totally lost my train of thought there, boy. It's been one of those days. But with the amount of money coming up, it creeps up on you. You never expect that to happen. It's not trying to impress somebody with quantity or anything. It's just what happens. Dave's got, like, what did we say, 600,000, 700,000?
Yeah. Yep. Dollar-wise. Yep.
You would never think about that when you first put your first couple items on. It's not, I've never worked towards having an amount up. It's never been a goal to have a specific amount up. I was always just trying to get more up to make more money. It never had occurred to me at one point when somebody said, well, how much do you have up in value? I know you can see it on eBay. It does give you a list value. But when you look at that, then you think about how much you got in back stock, and then you've got it on other platforms, and you sit there and add it all up. You're like, oh my gosh, I've got a full-fledged business with like volume that rivals, you know, some regions for national companies. You know, with Chuck here, with Dave, even I work for national for national food restaurants, Applebee's and places like that. You're making more or have more up than a store could do in an entire year, and you're talking a store that my store did $60,000 in sales on an average week. You know, 75,000 on a busier week, and 85 to 90,000 a week on, say, the two busiest days of the year, which is Mother's Day and Valentine's Day, which just passed. So it's with like Chuck, he's got 20 million basically sitting there, which is more than the entire region I ran. My region did 11.1, 11.2 million when I worked for Einstein Brothers. You've got more than that in your store from just magazines.
Right.
And Dave's got, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars in book value. It creeps up on you. Don't ever. Everybody tries to compare to somebody. This isn't a discussion on being, you know, boisterous and trying to say, hey, volume. But if you want to roll the money in and you keep adding it on and not worrying about all that other stuff, it's going to get to a volume that's insane. If you took a time machine back to when you first started, the numbers I'm doing are just crazy. And again, with either one of you, it's this. Do you feel it's the same way? I mean, is that how it rolls with you?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, years ago, we never thought we'd be where we are now, you know, and there was a point where I think we wanted to downsize. We talked about, Dave was telling me to downsize because we had some issues with some of the employees we had years ago. We weren't as efficient. And, you know, once you really make that transition to say 100, 200,000 items, you got half a dozen employees. You know, now we're at a dozen employees with double, but we got better employees. So, you know, I'm buying smarter, listing smarter, and hiring smarter. So that's really helped my success now compared to years ago.
And I think to anybody out there, and to kind of tie it into what you were saying, I've got a day job and I've got this number of items listed because I started in 2002. So we're talking almost 20 years. But if you can sit there and you can list 1,000 more items a year than you sell, you're at 20,000 items. You just need you're not going to get to 20,000 items overnight. It's just not possible. But if you just list every day, one more item than you end up selling, guess what? You're growing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I worked and did it as well. I was going to say with Dave, he's able to do that. That was literally where I was going. You beat me to the punch on that one. That's the point. Dom's got a lot of inventory up. Dom, Primetime Treasure Hunter as well. He works a lot of hours. I've talked to him like first thing in the morning, like 7 in the morning. And the other night we talked till 12 something. And I know he was up in the morning. That's the kind of hours that Dave, Chuck, me, anybody else that I know is doing, are doing these type of hours.
Yeah.
This honestly isn't work. I don't feel like this is work at all. I don't know about how's your feeling. I mean, this is what I was made to do in my book. This is like the dream job I never knew would have ever existed. I mean, where is your mind on those thoughts, either one of you guys?
I love it. I've always collected anyway. So I love the thrill to buy collections, whether it's a customer coming to my store with a couple He-Man or, you know, Ohio, I'm buying out a store of 100,000 magazines. So yeah, I just love it. I don't love getting up at 3 a.m, but I don't have a choice. So some of the stuff I do, my employees can't do. So I'd rather get up early and get it out of the way, you know, as far as printing orders, sorting them and so forth.
Oh, I absolutely love it as well. Again, you got to work it around the day job, but I'll give a perfect example. I got off the clock last week, Friday at 3 o'clock. There was a sale that looked pretty good. It was open till 5, got down there, tons of books from the 1800s. Ended up going that day, went the next day, went the last day, filled up a box each and every day, found a $100 book out in the garage on day 3 that everybody had missed for the first 2 days. So it's just, it's a lot, and I paid $40 the last day for an entire box full of books. And one little book that, this size book was worth 100. It was a Mormon book from 1899. So nobody saw that book in there for some reason or other, and that just went right in there. So that's so much fun to me. I was watching the clock at my day job going, can I get down to the sale now?
I don't watch everybody wonders, I have to turn it off. It's it's a German clock. It's a German, I don't know what you want to call it, but it's a wind-up clock. I have a key to it and all. I don't pay attention to the clock when I'm reselling, in all honesty. If I'm outsourcing, I kind of do, only because it's when I'm out, it's time lost in my mind, because even if I'm picking something up, because I'm not getting something new rolled out that day. At least that's how I look at it. With like the Mormon book you mentioned, I have many people around here, nobody thinks the religious books are worth anything. And that's one of the big pluses here. I've been to a few sales, 2 or 3, and maybe the last 3 years around here, where I walked up on just some sale. I thought maybe it might be okay. And I get in there and it's this massive amount of historical books or papers and stuff like that. And I've just spent, the entire day there, and they're like telling me I got to leave. I just don't pay any attention to the clock on those things. The religious books, though, no one looks for around here. No one picks them up. I just sold a little tiny pamphlet from like 1898 and it was in German. It was like some Lutheran organization. I got like $38 for it. I've got like a dime into it, if even that much, because it was bought in bulk. Just like the box deal, I like to buy. I don't think I bought anything less than, a couple hundred items at a time lately. I can't even say a specific when I bought less than that. Again, like getting inventory. People ask on inventory. Can you guys give some suggestions? We'll let Dave start off this one, because Chuck keeps getting the first shot on this one here. So we'll let Dave shoot this one off here. Maybe some suggestions. Don't give out your best secret sourcing, of course.
Oh, this guy named Bob. My friend Bob. One thing I wanted to talk about, real quick, going back to where you're talking about the religious books, we have a video up that talks about one of the best things you can possibly do is know your area. And I don't know how much you know about the Mormon faith, but that was started just up the road over Palmyra, which is, 20 minutes away from us. So there's a lot of Mormon stuff around here. Susan B. Anthony was just up the road. You find Susan B. Anthony stuff around here, Frederick Douglass things, all that kind of thing. Cal Ripken was here with the Red Wings. So whatever area you are in, learn your local history, because those are the things that are going to show up. The odds of you finding an early Mormon book in the middle of California are probably a lot lower than me finding it up here. The odds of me finding something big out of Stanford are probably pretty slim up over here. And I don't think a lot of people take the time to learn their local history, but I think that will help you tremendously.
Definitely. I was going to say, definitely. I actually took Ohio history in college for that reason. I took we took history of religious faith. I don't remember the exact title, but it was history religion. Then I also took a mythology class, and it was all covered in mythology. So when I'm out there, I can source it. This was like tied in, and they would have been classes I can still use for a PhD. But the point of it is, a lot of those classes you can take, like a survey course. People may think it's stupid to do stuff like that, but the more you know, the more you're going to do. Just like Dave's saying here, I took stuff just because I knew it would help me in my personal business as well. I sell a lot of records. I've got a site that I live by. It lists every single label in Ohio, and it grades them, and it gives you the names and expected what's known. I've got one for Michigan, Indiana, which are the closest states that I go to. I hit a 200-mile range from my house. So if it's 200 miles from my house, chances are I've been there in the last year, because I do that. So Dave's speaking 100% truth there. I've said the exact same thing. I don't know how many times. And knowing more than even people who are in the town you're in is way better, because I bought stuff from people that didn't have a clue what Babcock Dairy was. And around here, my father, everybody knew Babcock Dairy. These people hadn't a clue they were selling signs from this dairy that it was some big thing. And again, I'm buying it from people who lived here their whole life. I was dumbfounded, but that's exact example of that. Let me let you continue and stuff here. I know I interrupted you there.
I interrupted you, so it's all even now. as far as where you get things from, and this is kind of interesting because he and I have completely different places we get things from. I do the estate sales. When they're out, I do the auctions. I very, very rarely hit a garage sale. I mean, if it's across the street, I'll walk across the street, and actually did pick something up last year across the street at a garage sale. Hit a thrift store only kind of when we're out there looking to kill time. So basically it's auctions, estate sales. And then I think the number one thing, flea markets also. I do very, very well at flea markets. And one thing I would definitely say to anybody going out to flea markets, and I know you've said this in the past as well, have business cards. One of the most important things you can have is have business cards. Pass them out when you see somebody that's got stuff you want. And probably half the things I buy nowadays come from other dealers that just don't want to deal in the stuff that I deal. They give me a call, I stop by, and I'll give you a perfect example. When you do things with dealers, I just went to a dealer the other day, and I paid him, I'm not going to say I paid him more than I should have, but I paid him more than I could have. But he was very, very happy, and he's going to call me next time, no doubt. And I've dealt with him throughout the years, and I kind of knew what he would take, and I offered him more than that. He was very, very happy about that. I'm going to be the person he calls next time he gets paper items. So treat them right, because they're always going to find you more things. He does clean out, so he's definitely going to find more things out there.
Some very good points. I give out even sometimes a commission, somebody like a finder's fee, if you turn me on to somebody.
Sure.
So it's helped people that don't resell say, hey, I got a friend here. He gets $20 for telling me and giving me some numbers and hooking me up with somebody is what I've done in the past. It doesn't have to be someone out looking. At least that's one philosophy, and it does work. The business cards are great. And what I would say with the business cards is print what you want on the back of them. I've got a couple sets of business cards. I got one for like internet stuff. I've got one for my art businesses. I've got one for what I buy for. So depending on if I'm going to a secondhand place or I'm dealing with a flea market or antique dealer or a fair or something, I only bring one set of cards with me usually. I might have a couple in my wallet or like my art stuff, but that's a good thing to do because you're giving them everything you buy, everything you know. You'll tell them, and my card says I pay higher than everybody else on it. Highest prices paid for, and then it gives them a description of what I buy. Go check your prices out first and come to me last. That's the call on that one, because most of the time I can pay more than the other people and not have to worry about it because I get more than most of the other people too. So, and they don't know enough about it. Again, back to experience and knowledge. They don't know enough about it to shell out the bigger bucks on it, or they're nervous, or their purchasing funds may not be anywhere near mine. So I can afford to do that. Like when somebody wants a bunch, they're trying to sell a huge lot, like with Chuck here, probably with the magazines around here, people would try and lowball them so bad. If I know the deal's there, I'm not going to banter them. I literally will tell them, go to everybody else and then come back to me. And then what's going to happen next time? They're not going to go to anybody else. They're just going to come to me straight every time from that point on. And that's how I've got people coming to me, because I don't mind. Again, I'm cheap, but I don't mind shelling out the money if it's a deal that's there. I mean, I've spent $14,000 now in a year on buttons, and that's, people think was insane when I first told a couple of my close friends that sell again. He says, dude, you're going to be screwed. I've already got the money back. I didn't start the list until the midpoint of December. If you know your stuff, you're going to rake out. I mean, there's just no other way around it. But let's let Chuck come back on and answer that, his take on that long drawn out conversation of us.
No problem. But I give my business cards out too. And I make sure my cell phone's on there, and I tell them, you can call me anytime. I don't like losing out on deals. So if you want to call me at midnight, 3 a.m, if it's worth it, I could care less. I'll entertain it. A lot of times people want to lug down records or sports cards, and I may not want them. So I said, hey, send me some pictures first to save you the trouble. So they like that, option to, use their cell phones before they engage and come to my shop. But as far as buying, there's 4 different ways I buy. Basically on my brick and mortar store, I got locals that come in and they'll sell off their collection daily or weekly. I even have eBayers that have bought from me. I had a gentleman that has been buying magazines for 10 years. He retired, and I hired one of my friends to drive out to Utah to pick up, 15,000 magazines. So it's the furthest we've driven, but it was well worth it. He gave me a great deal. The website's great too. I get a lot of people all over the country. We come up pretty high in the searches for buying magazines. So we picked up some pretty big collections there as well. And then I got a couple of friends in the Midwest area that will search over Craigslist, Facebook. And if they find any big collections, I'll hire them and give them, a fee to do so.
Oh, that's pretty cool. That's a good idea there too. Let me interject for just 1 second here. Thank you, JJ, for the $20 super chat. Very gracious, very gracious. Again, not required, and I honestly hate to say I hardly ever even think to call it out until somebody gives one out there. But thank you very kindly. Thanks. Not a big beer drinker, but maybe to be a little bit of wine or something there with the wife. But thank you very kindly again, JJ. I find that quite interesting with the having the buddies across country. Now, I've got similar issues. I've got some friends in Phoenix. We've got many friends in Florida. I've traveled long distances to pick up stuff myself. I've had a whole U-Haul truck of 78 records that weighed 8,000 pounds or some high, some horrendous thing. Yeah. I've unloaded. We've taken last winter. I think it was 2 winters ago. We bought like 8,000 or 9,000 LPs that took forever. That's the type of deal that I personally do like, and I don't mind doing the same thing when somebody sends me Disney pins or something. They usually send me a big box. I give them commission. I give them, for their time. They can send me a bill for labor, and I just report it with my accountant. And the same thing, just like it's my labor. It goes on with, I think they're 1099. I don't remember what form they're filing on, but it's a 1099, I think, or something like that. It goes to my account. I don't really care where it goes, but that's the point of it there. I don't mind. I have employees. We pay somebody to do our taxes. So, there's many different ways to do it. You don't have to do everything yourself. Again, that's another way to get stuff from across the country. People ask me similar questions. Well, how do you get so much paper? Well, I've got people that buy it for me. I don't know how else to say it. I mean, I've got people that I have connections to that we've done this for an extreme long time. Again, with never the intention to get this massive volume until I've seen that video with you guys and you two touring the warehouse and stuff. And what was it? A red coffee maker, I think, is the intro scene or something. The point of it is, though, that, it's accessible. Now, we've worked up to this. All the three of us here have worked up to this in my book. People just didn't bring stuff to me. I started off just like everybody else, hammering any place I could go, anything like that. But once you get to a certain point and they've seen you a half a dozen times, you drop off your card, you call ads that are in different states and stuff. You're going to get people calling. I sold or purchased some stuff in mass quantities. These are 45s from one person. I drove to Detroit, picked them up, filled my van. It was like, I don't know, 40,000 45s or something. And he is a distributor. Well, he was retired. He was a distributor for a jukebox company. And if you know, distribution services handle big, huge regions or estates or, even the whole country. And he had buddies that he's worked with, that are now retired too, that had massive quantities too, sitting states away. And, he was bragging about, I sold all my inventory, blah, blah, blah. I got all this money. He drove and picked him up. 2 weeks later, I got more calls from his buddies telling him, hey, you bought him from my friend. And I got basically the same content. You interested? I told him, hey, I'll pay you. You box them up, pay you for your time. I'll give you an advance for boxes if you need it or whatever you want to do. Send them my way. And that's exactly what happened. Media rate's not that bad. It was quite a few boxes. But, sure. At the cost I even paid for them, the shipping, even though it was hundreds and hundreds of dollars, the shipping wasn't. I got one record out of there that was a couple grand. One single 45 7-inch disc, and it sold about 25 minutes after I listed it.
Oh, wow.
It depends on the record. I mean, it depends on, again, I took a chance. The price was right. I know I got scores of good stuff out of the first lot for the 40,000. So, I didn't pay $40,000 for it. Of course, it's penny or so a disc or so when you get to those quantities, but it's the hookups. There's around here, people burn their bridges. They're nasty to somebody one day, or they were mad about this or something like that. They never think about the big picture that, maybe next time comes around, this guy might have some really good stuff for me and I'm going to cut this guy out. It's just not doing good business in my book. I mean, you guys have any experiences where somebody's, you've dealt with before has similar options where they've brought you more stuff because of deals like that?
Well, actually, one going back for a moment, another place that I end up getting inventory from that I completely forgot about. I've got somebody in Rhode Island and somebody out in California that just reach out to me, and basically I buy the stuff sight unseen from them because I've dealt with them enough times in the past, and they'll say, hey, one guy says, I've got a 40-pound lot of paper. You interested? Here's what I want on it. I say, yeah. And he just sends it. I don't even know what's in there. And I've never been, I've always been very, very happy on it. And the gentleman out in California sends me a big box of magazines. Every month he invoices me and sends a box of magazines to me. And I don't know what they are. I mean, he'll send me a list. I don't even look at the list. I just told him, yeah, I'll buy them from you. Just invoice me. Right. And I pay it every single month, and some neat stuff comes in and I go, oh, cool. And so that's the kind of deal, like you're talking about, not burning bridges. Could he one time send me a bunch of junk? Sure. But then I'm not going to keep buying from him. So it behooves him to send me good stuff, and it behooves me to just say, yeah, every single time. We're both happy. And if there's a few things there that are a little lesser that I'm not too interested in, I might say, can you not include quite so many Life magazines next time? That kind of deal. And he's perfectly fine with that, and he'll cut back on including those in the future. So it's kind of neat to do it that way, though.
But Don, I'm like you in the sense where I don't like when sellers play games. They come in my store and like, well, I'm going to shop it here. So I tell them the same thing. Shop it wherever you want to shop it, then come to me. And if I like the offer and can beat it, I'll beat it. And 9 out of 10 times I beat it. Generally most people don't have the backing that I have at this point. And a good example was, you remember the flea market across the street? Mm-hmm. So across the street from my shop 10, 12 years ago, they opened up, and some of the guys in there wanted to run me out of business because I was the only, game on the street there, So I did something in poor taste, and I got a website and I put it on my truck. I pay more than across the street, but nevertheless, they're out of business, and I'm booming right now. So
I like that. That's good. That's good. I don't care what somebody thinks if I say that. I've said that I don't know how many times. It's printed on one of my cards. Literally, I'll pay more than everybody else. And that's 90% true or better, as you said too. Again, they can't touch. Most of the people don't have the backing, and I'm cheap. Everything goes in the bank. I don't have to. I don't turn down stuff because of lack of money these days. Again, you got to start somewhere. That's not, again, I'm not trying to belittle anybody who doesn't have that ability, but it comes if you put in the time and the effort. None of us, had some golden, spoon given to me. Everything I had, I earned. We lived on ramen noodles and stuff. And, I did what it takes, and I worked my butt off. And I know you guys do. I'm an early riser. I had to be at the store sometimes 3 a.m. for a truck that showed up at 4. So you get there at 3, turn the lights, you got to move and rotate, pull stuff off shelf, especially if you're like stocking a huge freezer for, a restaurant that does 70,000 a week or whatever the case may be, wherever you're at. And when I was a regional, it was the same basic principle, and we had a fleet of trucks, and it was just always something on. So, I mean, it's going to come for those who put in the effort, and far too many people see this as some easy, quick money grab for this. Dave took 20 years to get those amount of listings up by himself, though. So that's a good accomplishment in my book any day of the week. I've had help, thank goodness, because otherwise I wouldn't be where we're at. But it's taken us 10 years with help to get to the spot where I'm at now. I'm not sure. How long has it taken you from, I know you worked for your parents, but on your own, starting with day one, 0 magazines up to having 500,000 in total listings?
Yeah, 20 years. Yeah, 20. I started with Dave, but we did eBay for like 10 years. And, I still wasn't efficient 10 years ago. I think what happened, I think they booted me off for 30 days about 12 years ago. And I'm like, what am I going to do for 30 days? So Dave found Amazon. He's, let's try Amazon. And I went upstairs. I took a bunch of collectibles from my house, CDs, DVDs, anything, records, magazines, started selling them on Amazon. And that's really, we found Amazon because eBay booted me off, and we've been good ever since then. No looking back.
Yeah, I haven't looked back. Let me call out one more thing here. If you haven't hit the like button, please hit the like button. I'm at 192 on my end here in-house watching right this second. So again, These guys are spending some of their time, their free time. We're trying to give you some really good content. If you're enjoying the conversation, please hit that like button. I really love to get to that 100 mark there at the end of the show. Show some love for everybody here for what we all do. We give you good content, and I know the $1 Million Peddlers do as well. So perfect answer, too, for that one there, Chuck. People, the comparisons are the one thing that bugs me the most on when I get comments on here. I don't know about you guys too, but most people try to compare themselves to people showing pictures of how many boxes they got going up, people showing all the sales and all this kind of stuff. The end of the day is sales mean absolutely freaking nothing to me in my book. It doesn't impress me. If you sold $100,000 worth of merchandise, well, that's great and all, but if you only made $5,000 off of that,
right,
you gave away your whole year. You didn't do anything. You wasted your entire year in my mind. It's not the quantity. It's not amount of packages. It's not someone showing their whole car full up with stuff. Don't compare yourself to somebody else. For all you know, they're making $5 a package. You just sold 3 items and made $50 a package. So again, the comparisons are one thing I don't want anybody thinking about. We're talking about doing bigger volume and things like that here. Don't ever think anybody out there that you got to compare yourself to them. I was 0, he was 0, Dave was 0. We were all at 0 listings, 0 money, 0 everything. He was booted for a little while. Anything can happen to anybody at any stage. Even if you're doing $1 million a year, the next year something drastic could happen. So don't compare yourself. Don't think of this business as high roller business. We literally didn't know how we were going to pay our bills week to week. I didn't even know where grocery money was going to come in if we didn't sell something on eBay right after I got out of college. And I had a college degree. So there's no guarantees at all in this life. The one guarantee, though, that there could possibly be is if you put in enough work, dedicated, don't give up, don't quit, you can make it. There's a ton of people on YouTube. There's a ton of people across the globe who are working for themselves and are able to sustain a income, a revenue where they're happy with it, where they're happy. Maybe they're not making as much money as they were somewhere else, but I'm more happy this way. I'm obviously making more money than I was as a regional in all those spots, but the happiness, I would be happy to make less money to be happy all the time and to not be stressed out, not have to worry about this or that. Once the bills are paid, food's on the table, I'm good as gold. The rest of it goes in the bank or back into the company. Now, I know Dave's got a little different again. He's more like the Dom structure, I guess we'd say, with Primetime working. Again, I did that. I know exactly where Dave's coming from. I feel for Dave's aspect of it. I never worked for the government, but the point of it is he's got the basis. So when he retires, he already knows what he's going to do. You know, and I can almost bet you. I think you said you were an accountant. Was that
an auditor? Yep,
auditor. I knew it's something along. The point of it is, I can almost bet you $1 million that in 3 years he's going to have a smile on his face all the time, and he's going to be a lot happier where he doesn't have to go in. My only worry after I started doing this full time is, oh man, I wake up in the middle of the night thinking I'm going to miss work. I did it again the other day, and I hadn't done it for I don't know how long. I was tired. I was stressed out. I was working. I've got some vision issues, and it was like 3 something in the morning. Like, holy I was going to say something else, but holy cow! The alarm didn't go off. I'm going to be late for work. And then I sat there for a second, and I'm like, what? I woke the wife up, so it wasn't like I was literally thought I missed the alarm, and I was late for work, and so I guess I was dreaming about, or having a nightmare about one of my other jobs I was working at. But that's the feeling that I get. Chuck's already kind of on that side, I would guess, but growing up in a collectible store like that would have been a dream for me, I guess. But
sure,
we all come.
The only boss I've been in my life was my father, and then after that, I've been my own boss for the last 12 years now. So it's a good feeling.
It's the best feeling in my book. Let me do another call. I got Daryl, Carolina Picks here. Thank you very kindly there, Daryl, for the $10 super chat. Gracious of you. We're at 97 thumbs up. If we can just get a couple more, that would make me extremely happy. I got 182 people on still at this point right now. Again, thanks everybody for coming on. We're not done yet, but I do appreciate all the support and comments.
Would you mind if I said something?
Free will here. You're on an open and free class here of channels. So go ahead there. Either one of you guys.
You think you ramble on. He tells me I ramble on as well. One thing that to anybody starting out, pay attention. I think that's probably the best advice I can give you. And by that, I mean, I went to that sale with all the books, and believe it or not, the books were $6 a piece. First day, they worked with me a little bit, which I usually don't do on the first day. Years ago, I would have walked in, I would have said $6 a piece. That's insane. Would have probably found some booklet somewhere or other that I paid $1 for, and would have, picked up a $25 booklet for $1 and would have said their prices were crazy. Multiple years later, from having paid attention to things and learning things and the knowledge base that I've built up over the last few years, I dropped $250 there, no problem, because I knew they were good things. And I said, you don't see this kind of an estate very often. And I went back the second day and I dropped $1 or $1.25. I dropped the second day, and then I dropped $40 the third day. So I spent $415 for 3 boxes of stuff over 3 days. Why? Because I've paid attention all these years when I've been selling things. And I said, oh, that one's a good item. Oh, that's a good item. Oh, wait, that's, 1844 astronomy book. Yeah, that's an early astronomy book. That's going to be a good
real early. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's years ago, I never would have done that. And, yet another part of it is you are going to get dirty in this. I was down on my hands and knees, almost laying on my side, digging through books. And if you doubt in books, you know exactly how those old leather books are when you touch them and you get the grime left on your hands and all that kind of thing. I love it. It's just, you're pulling the things out, you're opening them up, you're saying, oh, 1850 Latin book. Yeah, I think I can sell that. And, ended up filling up a box of books just in that way, only because I paid attention. Because $6 is a fair amount for a book at an estate sale. But I went through and I picked out what I thought was good, and I came home and I did very well on the books.
The vintage textbooks, we do a lot in Reed's arithmetic, and a lot of the early 1830s, 40s, 50s, 60s, all the way up to about 1880 is where we get the top dollar on those. Most everybody around here, they might look for McGuffey readers or something like that because it's all talked about. It's basically the same thing in like Little House on the Prairie and the schoolroom scenes and stuff. But those are mass produced. You've got like the old an astronomy book from 1844. I would have I don't know if I would have sold it just because I took astronomy in college and I'm huge in that, and I love that aspect of it. Those things sell like mad. We got some SETI has a magazine out. I don't know if you know what SETI is. Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. Carl Sagan founded it. Well, they were sitting in a place on right out in the open, and everybody, science, who's going to want that crap? It's literally what I heard somebody say. This is all junk. SETI, Carl Sagan's like I don't want to say God because he would have never felt like that, but he's like the I don't know what you'd want. I don't want to say something to offend anybody, but he's just like the supreme one in the field of astronomy in general. And I bought them all for like $5. Issue 1 was in there, and I got like 500 and some odd bucks out of it. And they were in a store that is a resale place that everybody seems to go into. I run into other dealers there. It had been in there for a long time. He told me when I bought them at checkout. So again, no one knows. No one pays attention. They're looking at the wrong things. If those books were $500, I would have still bought them. It was instant dollar signs in my eyes. I knew exactly what it is. Shelling out quantity. Here's an example. I bought 5 pounds of buttons for almost $2,000. 5 pounds of buttons may sound like a little bit to somebody, but that's a lot of buttons. The family was, the wife was a little, you sure you're correct with what you're thinking? That's a lot of money on this and stuff. We delved into a 5 pound lot years and years ago, but the first lot I pulled out, more than that, just a little handful. And then we ended up, now investing almost just over 14,000. And we're already almost double that in return on investment in that.
Nice.
I would have never in my wildest dreams sunk $3,000 into anything without having the extra knowledge. I've got $1,000 just in price guides, not guides, in what would you want to call it? Identification books, I guess you'd say, of just buttons. Again, I've invested into that category at this point. You can't do that without knowing something. Dave knows something about books. Chuck knows something about magazines, I would say. You know, you can't pull a fast one past somebody who knows more than the person trying to pull the fast one. You can't jack up the price on someone. I just walk. I don't have to have somebody's item. I just walk.
Sure.
And that's the end of it. The next time they won't do that if they're afraid to sell it. They try to always get a few bucks more, but you've got to know more than everybody, not just in listing, not just in sourcing, but when you're out there. Even I bought from other dealers, as you guys both have said. I bought from other dealers, and they always, you know, they want to do the argument and try to get the price up and try this. And I know I know the game. I've been on both ends of it. I've done this for 25 years. I've been to the puppet show and I've seen the strings, I guess is one of the lines I heard. It's from a movie or something like that. But that's the point, that the knowledge is the most important thing you can do. And that's free. That's free. That's free for everybody. You know, experience and knowledge. You don't have to pay for experience. You don't have to pay for it. You've got to put in the effort. There's no other way around it. I just don't know any other way around it. I would not be here if I wasn't dedicated and wasn't going to give up. I wanted a better life for me. I wanted a better life for my family. And that's what happened. You know, no one gave me this. Dave, Chuck, 20 years in. I've got more than 20 years, but I'm not quite as far as Chuck, and Dave's actually farther than me in listing wise, at least on the one store. But the point of it is that anybody can do this. Would you guys, is there any like specific advice on the biggest thing is giving up right now? Everybody's telling me, I constantly, Dom's told me the same thing. He's gotten all these emails. We've shared some posts. It's people giving up all the time. Is there anything you can maybe throw out there with some words of wisdom from 20 years of you guys doing this as well? I'll let Chuck this time, and then Dave can pop in. But something to what motivates you to keep doing this when it's like the worst day of your life? Of course, the worst day of my life here is probably the best day working for somebody else in my book. But what's your motivation to keep you moving on this? Either one of you guys.
For me, it's just the hunt of the next score. Really, I love it. Like I said, anything. I'm waiting for the next vintage Star Wars collection to come through, or magazine collection. You know, I'm ready at any point. But an advice to give everyone is, like, if you want to grow, I would say grow slowly, but with quality items. Because early on, I was like a drill sergeant to my employees. You got to list, get it on. You know, and we did so, and we're making more money at a slower growth now because we're doing quality. So instead of $10, $15 items, we're selling $20, $30, $40, $50. Like, and Dave got us into that with the Terapeak and the research. But there was a time where before the Anchor store, where I think we had almost 400,000 listings on eBay alone, and that was because I picked up this massive photo collection, vintage photos, and we had 110,000 of them on there at one point. But the problem was we were selling them, but the problem was my eBay bill was $25,000 to $30,000 a month, because of all the listings they were charging before the Anchor store. So we ended up killing 100,000 photos. We got the quality photos on, and then, as luck would have it, they gave me the Anchor store, which it would have been nice to have those listings back. But like I said, quality now is where we're headed.
And actually, my advice would be a little different if you're starting out, and that's, you probably don't know quality. So if you're just starting out, get quantity, because that's how you learn. That's how I learned. You go to the auction and you pay $2 for a box of 20 books, and you get home and there's a $100 book in there. Even the books that aren't $100 books, they're $5, $6, $7 books a piece. Well, at the end of the day, you picked up 15 books, 14 of which were $5 and one was $100. You're at $170. I did that in my head there, so obviously I'm an auditor. You're at $170 worth of stuff that you paid $2 for. And now, next time I see a box, I say, oh, I know those are $5 books. Oh, there's that genre, there's that author, there's that. And that's another, I think, thing I would tell you. When you do pick up that $100 book, why did it sell for $100? Is it because of the author? Is it because it has a dust jacket? Is it because it's a first print? How do you know it's a first print? And so on. And that's where paying attention helps you. You say, hey, that sold for $100 because it's a first print. How do I identify a first print with this publisher? Now, next time you see that publisher, you know what a first print is. You know that, oh, this isn't a book club edition. You know. And the more that you learn, the easier it is to continue to learn more.
You build up you learn a little bit, the intros to the category, and then as you get into it, more and more and more. it works both basic ways with trying to accomplish that. We try to list higher dollar items for the most part, but again, I've got staff as Chuck does too, but I can afford to list smaller items only because those items only take, one of my guys can list 40 plus items in an hour without a problem. Postcards, comic books, buttons, trade cards, even action figures and marks and stuff like that, depending on if you stage it right. Like all the same size items, all the same ones from one set go up first. All the Superman comics are photoed together. All the Ohio postcards, and those Ohio postcards will be separated, Cleveland, Toledo, and I only have to change a word here, a word there, a building name, or an issue number, or something like that. Those are the ones that I will list at lower items. If they're more complicated, I don't want to mess with it. I don't mess with electronics mostly unless it's something like a reel-to-reel that I'll take apart and sell it for 5-10 times what I would for the whole unit, or something along that line. I don't like items that take more time, even if they're like $50 or $60 items, because again, I got overhead and it's going to sit, it's harder to wrap. I got to pay photographing and storage. Does something happen to it? Is it going to get damaged? At the end of the day, is it going to come back? And I weigh the pros and cons, and then we go from there to decide on what we're going to sell. Again, they're both picky and choosy on what they buy. Dave's picking specific items, Chuck's picking specific items, and so am I. And again, I could pick anything I really want. I pass up on stuff all the time. Even if it can make me some money, I'm not interested in it. I'm at a point where I don't have to have everything. I'm not greedy. I don't care if I have a Lamborghini, a Lambo in the drive or anything. None of that does anything for me. I could care less about a mechanical machine in my book. It's a daily utilitarian item to me. I know people think that's crazy, but that's what I think. It doesn't matter. The building of my company and all this stuff is really what's key in the driving factor. For me, it's putting the roof over my kid's head. It's being able to, I miss my kids' first steps. I missed first words. I missed birthdays. I haven't been home for an anniversary here and there because I was working out of town, and I'd give up so much to be able to get that time back. I can't, but at least these days, this type of business, this type of life allows me, Dave, Chuck, anybody out there to be able to do it on your own. You don't need to technically go to school for it. I would recommend a business class for everybody, but you don't have to. You can hire out an accountant. You can hire out somebody to show you how to do this or that. You can, there's no honest stumbling block once you get to a certain point as a reseller in my book. You like both of them just said, they build on it. They keep advancing it. They keep getting more stuff up. 1,000 more listings a year for Dave, or whatever the case may be. Again, Dave's by himself. He's working as his own person, and he's working full time. So I've said this before, it doesn't matter whether you're a part-time reseller or a full-time reseller. It's how much dedication you have to the whole endeavor. And if it's your full-time job that's helping you create your part-time business, that with Dave's case, he's going to be transitioning into a full-time reseller in a matter. He's probably got a calendar on the wall. He's putting X's on every day he's done, I would bet you. But, that's the type of thing that is a motivational aspect in my book. It's hard to get motivation when you do the same thing every day for a lot of people. I'm just going to give you one thing that's always worked for me. I set 5 goals, and I got this from somebody else. This isn't something I came up with, but it works. I set 5 reasonable goals, things that I should be able to get done that day. And no matter what happens, I make sure I get those 5 things done. And if I didn't write them down, I probably would never have gotten those 5 things done. May not sound like a lot, but once I get those 5 things done, I do whatever else I want to do work related. You do that every single day, you'll be surprised at how much stuff you can get done when you never thought it was possible. It's putting the effort in. No one's going to give you this. Dave or Chuck, did anybody give you any of this to give you to this spot?
No.
My dad helped me out when I was younger. He built a foundation as far as a brick and mortar store. He got me going there. As far as online with eBay and Amazon, I kind of took that, on my own.
That's the whole point of this. Again, I brought up a little while ago about giving up. People ask, well, why do you give out all this stuff? 85% of everybody out there watching this in a year probably won't be doing any of this anymore. And that's what I see. And that number is not just someone I come up with. There's actually studies, and you'll hear business professionals quoting that same number as a business owner. Another quoted number, again, I'm not trying to discourage anybody, because if you really want to do this, you can do it. But 35% of the population are about all that are have a mindset to run their own business. It doesn't mean that the other bit of the population can't do it. It just means it's just not in them, or it's not what they would like. They don't want to have to do it all. And again, that's the reason. A lot of people just watch this and they'll forget about it in 2 weeks, and it'll be a done deal. It'll be over the bridge or under the bridge, so to speak. That's the reason, because there's too many people that literally give up. Again, I don't let anybody get the best of me in that case. I don't give up. Like getting into I'm in collectibles, historical, vintage entertainment, which is a horrendously hard category. Apparently it's locked these days, but I bugged the hell out of Amazon every single day for a straight month. I answered. Some days I sent 2 responses back to them until they gave me an answer or told me what to do to get in. And that's what it took. I didn't care if I ticked them off. I had nothing to lose because I couldn't sell in those categories, which was 95, 98% of what I had at that point. I wasn't doing RA or FBA at that point. So I wanted to be able to sell the same stuff on Amazon and eBay. And it took me, most people would have got frazzled. I had some friends saying, you're never going to get in. You're never going to get in. I tried, blah, 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 blah. At the end of the day, I got in and he didn't. He gave up, and that's the point. If you've got that goal written down on your board, you follow through with it, you keep going, you keep going, you keep going, you keep going, something good's going to happen for your hard work, at least from my experience. Chuck's experience as well, too. I mean, you can't knock that this is hard work. But again, anybody can do it. I worked far harder in some jobs, and I got, way less money to show for it. So, that's a big take on it. Let's look on future endeavors for just a minute here, as we're past the hour mark now. We still got about 204 people on, which is pretty darn good for this night of the week. I've got goals. One thing that I set is a goal. Now, it's not the same 5 tasks that I need to finish on a day. My goal is something that's going to be something I'm going to really have to work for. I may not get it. I may not get it, but I always have another goal if I do hit it. And if I don't hit it, that's the next goal on the chart still. I keep working towards that goal till I hit it. What is your guys', Dave, Chuck, what plans, what's your future look like in your mind? What's your forecast or your plan going forward? I know Dave's kind of got one on semi-hold here, but obviously, besides listing a certain amount, is there somewhere you want to take your business, Dave? I'll let Dave start this one first. Where are your goals heading towards at the 3-year mark from today? What's your anticipation on expansion and stuff? I mean, I know you've got those specific numbers, but are you going to branch out? Are you going to cross list? Are you going to do your own venue, your own store? Where are you going with it, I guess, is the question.
Actually, kind of one of the things that I'm moving into a little bit is some original comic art and that sort of thing.
I saw your video.
Yeah, we've done the unboxing videos with some heritage stuff that we've got. And
let me interrupt for just 1 second, just because you said heritage. You guys use Heritage, and I'll just say this. Heritage is the only auction house that I use besides eBay. And I've never, ever, ever had a bad experience. And everyone that I've ever sent to Heritage has had a good experience, including Patreons, subscribers, Facebook group people, and the whole works. Not to interrupt, but I get that question. I've had that question about 100 times. Before you continue, can you just tell me your personal experience? Because I literally was going to write that down as a question. I did see your unboxing of that original art. What's your experience with Heritage?
Well, actually, why don't you answer that, because you've consigned to them?
Yeah, I've consigned them a few times, and they're great. I mean, they're top shelf, very professional, very organized. Yeah, I used a company years ago before Heritage, and it ended up being a Ponzi scheme of sorts, and I lost about $40,000. So they took my money and didn't pay anyone out of state. So you live and learn, but I stumbled into Heritage, and they've been great.
And you actually have he actually has a contact over there as well. So if he picks things up, he'll send pictures over to his contact that'll then either give him advice what to pay for it, what he thinks it is, and he'll even help Chuck. If it isn't something that he wants, he'll still help him and say, hey, here's what you should pay on it. Here's what I think the market is. And if it is something he wants, he'll be, can you consign to us?
The whole authenticated for free. I had an Elvis signature, which, they said it wasn't real. So it's good to know that I don't want to put on eBay. They'll research anything I ask of them ahead of time. So yeah, they're great.
Yeah, I've had them. They've answered every question without fail I've ever sent them. I've sent them photos and all kinds of stuff. Again, what's your experience then, Dave? And then I'll let you segue back into your future again.
Oh, I've never had any problem. I've bought from them years ago. There were some comics that I was collecting at the time, and I purchased from them, and never had any problem at all. And
what comic book?
What was it?
What comic book?
New Adventures of Charlie Chan. It's a 6-issue DC comic listed as scarce.
I probably have one here. Vampirella.
1960. I can go on all night about that if you want. Wait, why are you down to 4 viewers at this point? I don't understand.
Exactly.
But no, purchasing from them is great. The only problem I see with them currently is they are behind because of the pandemic and shipping things out. But right when you purchase from them, they will warn you that it may take up to 3 weeks from even to ship the order out. But again, I'm not buying things that I expect to flip, and I've got the day job, so it's not like I'm buying it and I need to sell it tomorrow in order to make rent or anything at all like that. So I can sit and wait for it to come. And I don't know if you saw what they were. They actually sent a survey out asking whether you would be willing to, if you would want them to perform the service where you buy things from them today and they hold on to it until they get things together and ship it out to you, which is great for a situation like mine because it would save on shipping. So
we already do that with like 3 companies. They'll hold it, and I do that for people who buy from us. We'll hold it to the end of the month, and then I'll send them. You have to invoice someone on eBay after it can't go past 30 days on eBay. So if you've got something that hasn't been collected, you cannot combine an invoice on day 31. So I have a 30-day cycle for like 7 different vendors who run businesses who buy stuff from me that they either do craft or something, and then they go ahead and do something with it. But all of those it's a 30-day bill of lading, basically, is what I would call it. In the restaurant industry, it'd be a bill of lading, 30 days due, first down payment or whatever it's due in 30 days. It's like if I'm doing wholesale, it's the same basic. That's the best in my book because I save a ton of money on shipping, and I don't care if I get it now, just like you. Who cares when it shows up? I got it. I own it. It's in the mail. Fine, Yep.
So I'm starting to purchase original art from them at a lot of their auctions, or at least bidding on it. I'm not winning so much, but I'm at least bidding. And the other nice thing about even just looking on there is comics are a young man's game. And by that, I mean, I know every comic book that was hot in 1985 because that's when I was going to all of the stores and going to the shows and picking out, going through your quarter box and picking out the $5 book out of there and being all happy because, I just picked up a $5 book for 25 cents. Things change, and they've got characters that I've never even heard of, and their first appearances are worth lots and lots of money. And I don't know any of that stuff. Yet Heritage, when they do their auctions, they pull those out separately. So even just looking and saying, wait, why do they have issue 43 separate? They've got a lot of 40, but then issue 43 separate. And that ties back into the learning and the knowledge. Well, then I do a little bit of research and say, wait, why is issue 43 good? Oh, that's the first appearance. And so it kind of ties all back in. If you're always paying attention, you're always learning, it'll do you well. Because I've just got a feeling, I'll be at some flea market and I'll see one of these books and I'll say, hey, I know that's good because of the Heritage auction. But back to the original point there, I want to kind of move more upscale with things, but I've got an entire garage full of lower level things. So I kind of want to empty the garage, but my new purchases, I want to be better purchases.
That makes perfect sense. What about you, Chuck?
As far as growth, man, my warehouse is about 85% capacity. I got a full sea container and 2 pods full to the brim. So I got to sell about 200,000 items before I can grow again, or else I'm buying another warehouse. But like Dave, definitely I want to buy $1,000 items and do more digging into that level of buying instead of like 50 and 20 and stuff. If that presents itself, I'll buy anything. But I definitely want to take it upscale as well.
Now this we'll talk about upscale for just a second. You got just a few more minutes?
Yeah,
sure.
I got tomorrow off.
Up now, talking about upscale. Now, I've got a video coming out. It'll probably be up tomorrow, but it's going to be on trending. One thing, if you pay attention, you guys both know comic books. I know Dave does. I'm pretty darn sure Chuck does as well too. The way he talks, with not just comic books, but with anything. Right now, the economy isn't good for some of the lower end stuff, is what I see. Now, if you people are checking into what's hot, what's not, what's trending, the biggest dollar mover in almost any category that I personally see right now are graded PSAs. PSA has whomped it, and I've looked into this, and there's a flux of people who are a little nervous and shaken by the Wall Street stock market, is what I see. And I've talked to some people in that industry. I know some people. Obviously, I've been around the block. I lived in DC. I know a few people still from there. What seems to be the case is they've moved their money, or some of it, to divest their investments, and they're banking on the fact that the comic books now have expanded to monster insane prices on, 9.9 or a Gem Mint 10 or something like that. That's the hottest trend in my book, at least in my area, and probably would be cross-border with both of what you guys say, because it's not just comic books anymore. You're grading everything these days. Right. Magazines. I literally had a video on magazines with Secretariat. That's just a few. I've got a list of the ones that you could send off that get good money, even in like 7.5, which is not very good when you look at a comic book grade, when a 7.5 graded magazine's still selling for a couple grand. There's a lot of these aspects out there, but the highest movers every single time I look in the last year, again, it started with the pandemic, is graded. And PSA is the number one rule of thumb. They're the what I hold every standard to is a PSA standard. That's my book. I know there's other grading structures, but if you want the most money in this trend that's going on right this second, it's all PSA. I know they're backed up. I don't know what you guys experience, but I've got autographs backed up with them, and I'm too cheap to spend the extra money on the service. And I almost thought about buying a subscription, for the free ones and getting the rush service and stuff, but those are all locked off on PSA if you haven't noticed. But yep. What's your take on the trending with grading on both of you guys? I'll let Chuck start this one here because we had Dave on the last one. But what's your take? What do you send a bunch of stuff off? Where do you stand on that?
We're gonna do an episode on that in the future, but I just started doing it again. But for PSA, I heard they're 6 months to a year behind right now.
They are. You got to pay extra now.
What scares me is if we're gonna have the same downfall like from Shaquille O'Neal as a rookie when his cards were hundreds, and then the market crashed in the 80s and 90s. Because right now it's like they're pricing themselves out of the market. Like $5 cards are going for $1,000 graded. And what's going to happen in 6 months or a year when 1 million cards come back to the public from being graded, and now they're going to flood the market. Are they going to continue to go up? Or are they going to drop because they're flooded? So that's the one thing that scares me down the road, because every card can't be worth $1,000 and find a buyer for it, like what's going on right now. So, but for me, I can only get something graded if I have a good card in my possession. Cards are flying off the shelf, so I really don't have a lot to grade right now. But I'm moving towards grading comics and magazines. That's where I'm trying to take the next level, because I have 500,000 comics and magazines. So why sell them for $5-10 all the time when I can get graded and get 100 to 1,000? So right now I'm digging through my inventory, and I'm getting 100, 200 comics, and every month I'm going to get them graded. So, but that's where I'm headed.
What about you, Dave?
I don't do very much with the grading because I'm cheap, and everything goes off into my collection. And with the cards and the comics, it is so new. And I know you were talking about possibly having the George magazine graded. Do they grade those, or is that too large? Because I don't believe they grade like Life magazine and the oversized thing. So do they grade the George?
You can grade any of them. They just won't slab it. They'll give you a slip. You'll get it's a photo cert. It has a photo of your magazine on it.
Okay, so
nothing has to be slabbed. There isn't any technical size limit, from what I understand, because the Secretariat that I've seen in person recently was a PSA, and it's a large. It's the same size as George.
Okay,
and that was in case too.
Well, because I know we had the one video, the unboxing video, or actually I don't know if it was unboxing or not, but I brought it in, and I'd never seen one of the posters that they had slabbed, and it is the flimsiest case it's the flimsiest case you ever wanted to see. I mean, he's taking it going, well, how is this going to keep its grade when it, you're moving it back and forth like this and it's going back and forth. So it's just, it's an interesting thing. And I do think that if you are a first mover with getting magazines graded, or an early mover, I think there's a lot of money to be made in that.
Yeah, no, I thought about that with the George, but with the political climate and everything, I would just assume sell it for less just to get it out, to make sure I still get some good cash out of it, because a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush in my book, and I have nothing into it. In fact, I sold a comic book to somebody locally that I know who collects comic books. It's something I don't collect, and it paid for the entire purchase already. So I got literally zip zero zilch into the whole thing, and
Nice.
If somebody gets a Vampirella, they call me. That's that, and I get something they want, I call them. So I'm sure you guys probably have friends that always, I want this one. You ever find this? I have dozens of people who ask for this or that if I ever run across it, because they're old school people like me who collected comic books and did the whole comic store. I used to go to a place called Atomic Pharaoh in Orlando, and me and my wife went there religiously for years, and it was a couple that owned it. He was young. He owned it himself too, and they used to have everybody in there. Lisner came in there, everybody who did artwork used to come in there. The comic book artists, he'd have like a signing day and stuff and stuff. So I love that kind of stuff. I don't keep them anymore. I don't collect comics other than Vampirella because I like the artwork. But anyway, with
quick comic story.
Pardon me?
Do you have time for a quick comic story?
Let me just throw this out there, and I'll throw it right back to you on that one, if you don't mind. With the grading wise, I thought what Chuck was thinking originally too. We hadn't sent any in for a long time, and then I started to look at the prices and the trending for the last year. Now with Wall Street money in there, they want to play the market. So I don't see, they're mad over the GameStop thing. They're mad that they were played by somebody else. So they want our market, is basically what I see it as. They're not going to let it fall because they want to be greedy and be able to turn it. To them, it's a commodity and not a collectible. So I'm looking at it from their point of view, that they want it as a commodity like Bitcoin or something. They've expanded and stuff. So I see it as viable for at least a few more years, at least in my book, from looking at it a Wall Street standpoint, because they're greedy. They're greedy. They want to get the comic books up to 10,000 so they can play off on something that doesn't have that value to begin with, but it's a tangible good at least, versus the whole fiasco with the housing crash. There was nothing backing it. They've got comic books as a backer, is the way I see it. Again, I was hesitant to throw the money out there because we've got hundreds tied up into PSAs, right? I mean, hundreds and probably thousands at this point. But I see it as a viable means. Again, if you watch Marvel Universe cards is a perfect example. Just a couple of years ago, you have $40 for a set of those, and now it's insane prices. A single card, $1,500. And I dug in to make sure it wasn't resold. I dug in, I checked out what the sellers were selling, the same ones who sold it. I tried to see what else is going on. It's a real thing. In fact, somebody else pointed me to other videos of comic book guys talking about that exact same market. I had a clue. I've been into it since I was a kid. I bought those brand new myself. So for me, it's something I've held on to for 31 years now. So I'm invested into it. But it's stuff like that. Those aren't being bought by a card collector in my mind. No true diehard card collector is going to spend $1,500 on one card from a 162 card set. Who's going to be? That would make the set worth a couple $100,000, like Chuck was saying. The prices, but that's fine with me to sell them that way, because again, they're the ones at stake at here. They might like. I don't know how long you guys. I know you were in them in the 80s and 90s. Dave was saying, and Chuck, I have to assume you were too. You guys remember comic ball cards?
Oh yeah.
Do you remember what happened after when they were stuck with a bunch of that? That was the crash with Nolan Ryan and Reggie Jackson when Comic Ball 1, 2, and 3. That was when Impel jumped. I think those are Impel, if I'm not mistaken. That's when the market was dumped with all those limited edition crap, and the market died, in my mind, at least in the non-sports side, for like 10 years. And now obviously comic ball is not worth anything, even the holograms, the 9-card hologram. But the point is now that some of the sets that suffered and didn't get the mass production because of the idiots at Impel over the comic ball series, now those cards are coming to fruition. That's part of the reason I've kept these things for all these years. Plus, I love the movies they're from. I love the artwork in them. I love, you know, the Jusko painting is just awesome. I'm sure you guys know Jusko, but that fascinated me. So I've always had these, but you know, there's a lot going on with the market in my book and why certain things have hit the market, and 90s rehash, 90s music's hot, and you know, again, fads, just like we talk about with anything. It's a rotational basis and stuff like that. But go ahead, Dave. I'm sorry.
Real quick story. I got a sec to tell us. I think you have a local fan in Rochester because the day after your video about the Marvel cards, I had to leave my shop early to take my kid to football, and I had a customer come in and clear me out. I had a box of like Marvel cards on a shelf, you know, some inserts and stuff. They're 50 cents a buck, and I came back the next day and he spent like $200 and cleared out the box pretty much. So you know, you live and learn. But I don't think there's any holograms from the first series, but there was some decent single cards in there. But yeah, they're watching you.
Well, I don't know if that's good or bad, but I mean, I've got like 50 sets of those cards right here, and I probably have. In fact, that was what I was looking for earlier today. I was trying to get some more of those cards out. So I know I got a 5,000 count box of those somewhere here in this, and I've got so many 5,000 count boxes. I don't know which one it is now, and I never wrote on the side of them. You know?
Oh, jeez. Well, there you got to do a video about writing on the side of your boxes. There you go.
Well, I've done video on labeling. Once it's up, I know where everything's at. But you know, I'm sure both of you guys, if you get some big lots in here, we've got an area like two aisles over here that we watch. We got a big 10-foot screen, and you can't get on the sofa now. It's a big sectional sofa because it's full of comic books and magazines, and the floor is just full of. I got some records that I need to take over to our other building and stuff, and it's full. The kids wanted to watch a family movie night, and I'm like, I don't want to have to drive. We got a storm here. It's 0 degrees outside. There's 15 inches of snow on the ground, and it's snowing right now, you know? So anyway.
Yeah, real quick with the comic story. This is actually pretty funny. You know who Jim Steranko is, I assume.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I've got, I don't know how many. He's got some. He did in like the late 60s, early 70s. He got some of his own comic books, Out of This World, or I can't remember the name of it, but he's got like some. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
They're independent private press. I think he funded him himself or something like that.
Yeah. Now all night long, I've been trying to think of the name of that, but I know exactly what you're talking about. And if you sell things to him, that's where you end up shipping it to. You ship it to him, care of that company. But I was over at San Diego Comic-Con with a friend of mine, and a friend of mine loves Steranko art. So he went over and he bought one of the Marvel collected editions of Jim Steranko stuff, and Jim was at the convention. So my friend went over there to ask, "Hey, would he be willing to sign this?" And so he walked up to Jim's handler, would he be willing to sign this? And the guy looks like, "Oh no, he doesn't want to sign that. He's in a dispute right now with Marvel over the rights to that, so he wouldn't want to sign that." But, "Oh, gee, I'm sorry, The guy goes, "Well, maybe he'll sign it. Would you be willing to make a donation to his foundation?" And my friend said, "Oh, yeah, no problem whatsoever." So he threw $25 whatever into the foundation. So Mr. Steranko came over, signed it, standing in the middle of the hall at Comic-Con, talking to my friend and me. And I don't know how much you know about Mr. Steranko, but he used to be a boxer. So he starts telling some story, and we're talking, he's a fire plug. He's, well built still. Starts telling some story, and he's going, "Yeah, so I was hitting this guy, and he's punching me in the arm, and it's hurting like heck." And my friend is almost on the floor laughing, and Steranko's like, "Yeah, I did this to him. And I'm like, so I can at least say I got beat up by Jim Steranko at Comic-Con.
That's pretty funny. Him and Ditko used to do a lot of stuff together too, or they were friends or something. And whatever line that he did, Ditko used the same printer, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm almost sure it's Ditko, whatever his name is.
Ditko,
yeah. Yeah, that's who it is. Maybe I'm mixing up the name of the title with his, but they both have like some small one. It's not superheroes, or it's something they created. It's right on the tip of my tongue. I guess it doesn't really matter, but we're running on the hour-and-a-half mark long, which I don't usually like to run too long with somebody on here. We'll end it here, but before we head off, Let's both get your sign off. Any words of wisdom at the end here? Any goodbye or anything you want to call out your channel or anything else like that?
Hey, I watched the $1 Million Peddlers. One thing, some of our earlier videos, especially the ones that I did solo, we put up videos every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, which is a homage to Jimmy Buffett. I don't know if you're a Jimmy Buffett fan or not, but he had the album Tuesdays, Thursday, Saturday. So I said, that's a nice, easy thing for me to remember. And there are times when we can't get together and do the shooting. So then I do a video on my own, just kind of to keep to the schedule as need be. And you take a look at some of the early videos, and you've mentioned before that you cringe sometimes when you look at some of your early videos as well. Yeah. So we're the same way. We're trying to put out a lot better content, and I think that we're doing a pretty good job of it. And I think the thing you're going to notice is we genuinely have fun doing it. And I think if you watch the videos, you'll see us laughing. And one thing that we do a lot of times, and it's not shtick. Chuck has zero idea what we're going to talk about. I literally sit there and say, oh, you know what we're talking about today? And then I throw a subject out and it gets his real reaction. It's nothing staged. He has no idea half the time what we're talking about. But that spontaneity, I think, is what makes it fun, because I don't know what he's going to answer because he doesn't know what I'm going to ask him.
I didn't know he was going to say that right now.
That's true too. So I would like you all to watch it if you could, and comment. We do answer back all the comments down below. And again, we try to make it fun and spontaneous, and we also do take requests. So if there's a video that, if you watch us, subscribe to us, you want us to talk about, mention it down below, and we'll work it into the rotation.
I just wanted to say, if you like Papergoy's voice, you will love our channel. A lot of it. We were really going to originally be called Dave and Silent Chuck, but we think $1 Million Peddlers is better.
Yeah, definitely better. I don't know how Dave or it would be like Jay and Silent Bob or something like that. Clerks, for anybody who knows Clerks, very good, underrated movie in my book. But anyway, I do want to thank you both for coming on, taking some of your time off. I know we went a little longer than I had said, but the conversation has been going very good, and we have quite a few people still on in the house. If you haven't checked them out, I do honestly suggest you check them out. Many people just don't get the volume aspect and stuff like that, where you can go, what you can take this. A lot of people, I get some criticism for not looking at it from another side or not showing certain things. I can't show things that I don't own or don't have. I can't open up a new store every day to show somebody how to do something and stuff like that. And I can't answer everybody's questions and stuff because I get hundreds of them a day these days. There's just no way. I'm glad that he said they do, because that is something that I try to do in the beginning, but at some point you guys will probably hit a point where you won't be able to do it either. But I do thank you for both coming on. You guys were great having you on. Thanks for the time. Thanks everybody for watching as well. I do appreciate everybody. If you haven't hit that thumbs up, please hit the thumbs up. Please check their channel out as well. I do have it in the description box. I just popped it again into the chat. And once the show is over, I will actually post it as well into the comment section. It'll be the top one there. Easily just click on that link. It'll take you right to their channel. Again, give them a shot. They've got some good advice, good knowledge. They've been into this for 20 years. They're old timers like me. OG all the way, I would say, without a doubt. They collect similar items, kind of similar things to what Dom does as well, Primetime Treasure Hunter as well. So again, I thank you all for coming on, and I hope you have a good evening, and we will let it go at that.